Welcome to Business Uncomplicated. Today we're going to be talking about AI, and we have a great guest who has a lot of experience in the field, and she's going to give you some real world examples of how AI is transforming companies. But before we get to the guest, let me paint a quick picture for you. Imagine your team's up late trying to close a deal at the end of the quarter, or we're trying to put numbers together for the board and you're exchanging spreadsheets and decks, or you're just trying to get a marketing campaign out. Meanwhile, your competitor has already closed two deals, has answered overnight tickets, has created a marketing campaign and already launched it, all while no people were even in the office. It was all done through AI. This is the new rhythm of business, and this is how AI is transforming companies. Now, AI is driving results quickly. We've seen a rapid transformation even in the past year, and the technology advancement is amazing, and it's only on a rocket ship to get even more advanced. So the question is, why haven't you started your AI journey? For a lot of customers, AI is becoming not a buzzword, but an imperative to run their business. But AI comes with a lot of challenges or a lot of needs around how you're going to implement AI. There are ethical concerns, data privacy concerns. It is how you're making that experience, whether it's agentic or automated, feel authentic to your customer. Remember, the customer experience is always going to be key to what you do. And you want to make sure that your AI is complementing your brand and your business to ensure that it is giving you a leg up on your competition. So the bottom line is, well, a lot of organizations are trying to balance innovation with speed and governance and ambition. You need to start this work now. So if you haven't, we invite you to sit back and listen to our guests' experience and start planning your AI journey. So imagine growing up in a town where everybody knew your name, that teamwork was baked into the fabric of your daily life. Then fast forward to moving into a global product team that's shipping cutting edge AI. And that's our guest today, Liz Jensen, head of delivery and operations at Provoke Solutions, a consultancy that specializes in custom software and Gen.AI solutions that deliver results. Liz's journey from Illinois cornfields to the Austin tech hubs, she's always been focused on building relationships with her clients based on trust and results. The playbook she follows is pretty simple. What problem are we solving for our customers? Whether she's using their proprietary solutions or her client-obsessed mindset, she's always focused on transforming customers and turning real business challenges into state-of-the-art solutions. She's had a pretty remarkable career, from being an English lit major to now transforming businesses into growth engines. I feel like she's done it all. So today we wanted to talk to her about the product mindset. What does an outcome delivery model look like, and how does Provoke focus on that? Turning Gen AI requests into actions. How is AI transforming businesses? We really want to talk about her mindset around leadership and humility and how to grow as a leader using AI and what that means. And we're also going to talk about prompt engineering and why it's important. So, welcome to Business Uncomplicated. Enjoy the conversation.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome, Liz. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Rich.
How's Austin?
Gorgeous. This is the perfect time of year. Cool weather, lots of flowers. So yeah, love it.
You,
Enjoy it
Wish it
while
could
it
stay this way.
lasts. Yeah, exactly. You've
Exactly.
got 2 days, you're done, and then it's summer.
Yep. Actually going camping this weekend to
Oh,
seize
very
seize
nice.
the day.
yeah. So it's not 1,000 degrees when you're in a tent.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Well, we're
Excellent.
so excited to have you today and talk a lot about AI and your background and share with the listeners kind of your perspective on what's going on in the industry. So maybe we'll just start with a little bit about you. So Andy, you want to jump?
Yeah, tell us about you. For those of us who don't know you all that well, tell us about yourself. How'd you get to where you are today?
Yeah. Where I am today is I'm head of delivery and operations at Provoke Solutions. We're a custom software application development consulting firm. We do Gen.AI and custom apps. I um I became this through quite a winding road, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go. But the short answer is actually started my college as English literature and found my way into computer science and things. So we'll go deeper, but background in project management, product management, and then consulting.
I always
Interesting.
find it interesting when people are like, "Oh, I was a English major, and now I'm in."
Right. Most people start with the hard stuff and then they're like, oh, English, I can speak that. It's good. Let's go to the easy part.
I'm a good prompt engineer actually.
I'm
I'm
sure I'm doing something.
Very nice. Very nice. Excellent. Excellent. So are you from the Austin area? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Illinois. So I grew up in
Okay.
a very, very small town that almost nobody has ever heard of in central Illinois. It was about a town of about 1,200 people. My
Ooh.
grandma and grandpa were farmers. There were 60 people in my high school graduating class, and that was bringing six towns together. And it literally was
Wow.
surrounded by cornfields, literally. So, yes, it's been a journey. Moved to Austin in '99 for a job with Dell after graduate school.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Okay.
So you were
Cool.
there when Austin was still weird and small, versus now
Weird and
it's
big.
always
It
like
was
places to live is Austin, right?
yeah, it's definitely different than it was, and I know that, it was different before I joined,
Yeah.
um but yeah, still has a great spirit, although
Good,
larger.
good. So Dell was your first job, and what did you do there, and how did you progress into where you are today?
I started as a software developer.
Okay.
And then probably did that for about 2, 3 years, and then quickly realized that I enjoyed bringing people together and making the project happen rather than doing the development myself, and just sort of naturally fell into it, and just yeah started leading projects. When I started, I was in the manufacturing software team of what was back then the factory build process. So pretty specific software. But made my way into program management and then product management, and was involved with the global Salesforce.com rollout many years ago at Dell, and that was where I got my taste for product management and really trying to understand how do we create something that will help achieve the business objectives, and it's really more about the business objectives and then how that all comes together. Got really passionate about that. Then several other enterprise software companies, program management, product management, and then moved into consulting about 9 years ago. And I actually started the product management practice at the prior company, and absolutely hands-on delivering products, and we focus on the product mindset and bringing a full cross-functional team to achieving software, and that was our key differentiator. We we grew the product management practice from 0 to about 72 and reached a successful exit. And I stayed. I was there and supported the team for a couple of years after the acquisition, and then now I've moved to Provoke, and we're working really hard to create something special here, and grow as well.
So product mindset, what do you think is different in the way you approach it than you've seen it approached in other places?
Yeah, and I think that I think back then it was a little bit more of a differentiation than it is now, right? Like everyone knows who a product manager is now. It wasn't that way 10 years ago. But I think really it's it's easy. Like we all love solutions and we love solving those problems, but we also have to talk about the problems and really understand what's behind those and what are they trying to achieve in terms of success metrics and all of that. So the difference is really starting with that rather than the technology and the cool thing. And that absolutely applies to Gen AI very much as well.
So starting with the customer and what are they trying to accomplish?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
exactly.
funny, a good friend of all of ours, who's CIO at Logic Monitor, who I work with, she always says her first question is, "What's the problem we're solving? Like, why are we doing this?" As a CIO, she doesn't lead with technology, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing. Is this is really about business outcomes. This is really about how you achieve growth, simplicity, however you want to phrase the challenge that a company may have. And Andy and I talk about this a lot. It's also about the maturity of the company, right? Where this company
Yes.
is on their journey is super important. And I don't know that a lot of people really focus on that, or at least I haven't seen that. I don't know what your experience has been.
Hmm. That's interesting. Um, we often bring a very different approach depending on where the company is in their journey, and just in terms of speed and piloting and proof of concepts and those sorts of things. But actually, I haven't thought about that, Rich, as much about yeah, about where they are in their journey. How do you guys look at that?
Well, we're still exploring it, but one of the things we've talked about is, from a startup to when you're in growth to scaling, you're kind of in this different mindset. And so I like the word mindset that you used. And it's when you're a startup, it's kind of like you have to just whatever it takes to get the sale, to get it done. You don't care about words like governance and, system connectivity, and there's no thought of the silos, right? Like it doesn't matter, right? Everybody's doing what it takes to launch that product, to get that product out. Then I think as you mature, that I don't want to say fracturing because it sounds negative, but those silos start to exist because marketing starts growing their messaging and sales starts growing theirs and customer success, and you add support and product becomes multi-dimensional. And so then you start having different software needs. You have different processes that come into place. And then when you're really scaling, so I mean, you were with Dell in 99, but think of Dell when I joined in 2009 or 2006 as a consultant to do the project, but 2009, and then kind of when you exited in mid 2010s.
Yeah,
Uh, the difference of that company and the needs of that company were so different.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, huge. Yeah, absolutely huge.
yeah,
From sort of cowboy days
right,
to
That's true. That's true.
right.
But
to
Well,
what
more
I like about
structured.
what you
operating
said
over
is that it's
there,
all about
right?
what are you trying to accomplish? Because at each of those different stages, you're trying to accomplish something that might be a little bit different from one to the other, and that's, understanding what are they trying to do, and then where maybe you've seen it before. To your point, like the approach is a little bit different depending on where the client or where we are as a company.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And defining what that success looks like
Yeah,
for them. This is the
yeah,
right fit for them.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Right.
absolutely.
And I love how you keep on putting the customer at the center, right? I think that's super important that I think a lot of customer companies get distracted with the shiny object of their product or what they're trying to sell the customer. And I think what you keep on kind of bringing us back to is, yeah, but it's about the outcome the customer is trying to achieve.
Yep.
With
Yeah. And that's actually one of the reasons I came to Provoke. Because that we're focusing on the right things. And really focusing on the clients and with them every single day. I'll give you an example. We have no salespeople. We only have delivery people. And because we want all of us to know, how does it really work. We don't want to pontificate and talk about pie in the sky. We want to have continuity, from end to end when we're working with our clients. So I know that's a little bit different approach than many companies, but yeah, it really works for us and helps us stay centered on the clients.
So tell us about Provoke.
Yeah. So we've actually been around for 23 years. We started in New Zealand, of all places. And we are in the last 5 to 10 years, we've been growing in the US, and our leadership team moved to the US about 5 years ago. We're 100% strong and have teams in both the US and New Zealand. We do offshore, but our offshore teams are in New Zealand, where we have a lot of great collaboration overlap in working hours and no language barriers. Really great team. And we are focused on Gen AI and bringing Gen AI into software services. And we've developed our own intellectual property that we can talk a little bit about. Nova.
So let's talk. We've talked about Gen AI, and we talk about it a lot. We're both working on projects with Gen AI, and of course, you can't go anywhere without talking about AI. But talk to us a little bit about Provoke's approach, like what real world problems that you guys are solving. Like, what are customers coming to you and saying, "I need AI to solve X."
Yeah, one example is a large insurance company. They came to us because they have, of course, quotes for all sizes of businesses, and they were spending the same amount of time on the small and medium business quotes that they were on the enterprise customers, and they
Right.
weren't able to scale. They were really limited. By that and be able to really have the fast turnaround in terms of getting quotes out, getting sales made faster, and keeping customers happy or prospects happy. So we implemented a custom Gen AI solution for them to be able to use Gen AI to automatically create the small and medium business quotes. Of course, in a responsible way with oversight and review and all of that. And so that is launched and going really well. And then they're able to pivot those people to be focusing on the value add activities with the clients rather than doing something that Gen AI can at least do a first draft of.
Right. Right. I'm curious, when you're working with clients, everybody can understand, okay, I can use Gen AI to replicate manual tasks, to take away something, that is, to your point, you're like, these are smaller, they're a little bit more formulaic. But when you add that Gen to the AI, like that's a whole different ball of wax, right? How do
It
you,
is.
when you're talking with your clients, how do you get them into the mind frame and perspective of thinking about what's possible, and how do I do that in a safe and productive way?
Yeah, where we often start, and of course it's understanding their environment, but often we move to level setting, and then in terms of what is Gen AI, what's possible, show some art of the possible, right, to be able to inspire folks and just be able to get a consideration set for what can happen, and then pretty quickly moving into ideation workshops and looking, just brainstorming. Any idea is a good idea. Let's get all the ideas out on the table. Let's use sticky notes or virtual whiteboard. Let's look at them in terms of which one is the best one to do first, what's going to have the best ROI, what has maybe the right team for adoption to be able to do that first proof of concept. But yeah, definitely looking at it from quite a few different viewpoints, and picking the use case that is safe, that's not using confidential data, that is really doing this in a transparent,
Right.
proper way.
I mean,
Right.
and that's a good point because a lot of what I've been hearing is, oh, you just install Gen AI and it just works and it's going to solve all my problems, right? Kind of like back in the day when they sold Salesforce. Oh, sales, just you don't need IT. And, now IT is so involved in software as a service, right? So talk to me a little bit about how you guys address the multidimensionality. And what I mean by that is, I see Gen AI as having legal and governance issues. You talk about ROI and financial, uh, you know, gains from it, right? Whether that's through efficiency or whether that's through deferred headcount potentially. There are things around data privacy you had talked about. There are things around content, right? We deal a lot with that where if you don't have good content, you're training the AI to have bad data. And data has always been kind of the source of a lot of these systems. So, how do you guys approach that multidimensionality of Gen AI or AI as customers wade into it?
Yeah. Similar to the frameworks that many companies use, right? We're looking at it in terms of, fairness and privacy and security and robustness and, oversight, people oversight and checks and benchmarking in terms of, what are we looking for? What sorts of effects are we having? And just very closely reviewing the output. I don't know that we have like a magic framework or I
Right.
think I think it's taking all those into account in addition to the company's risk tolerance and really to find that first path forward and start with a low risk area, like a proof of concept.
Yeah.
One way that we recommend companies approach it actually first is with a hackathon, and that's actually where our Nova came from was a hackathon, and the hackathons are they take a good amount of preparation to make happen, but getting people to do it hands on and to see what's possible, it's so different than pontificating and just talking about it.
Right.
In fact, my first hackathon with Provoke as an employee, we have an office in Dallas. I was up there for it, and I was supposed to. We started on Friday night, have our presentations on Saturday night. I was supposed to be back in Austin for a wedding on Saturday night, and about 30 minutes before I was supposed to leave Dallas, I'm like, honey, that wedding tonight, could you go to that without me? I'm really having too much fun and want to stay up here, and I'm just so competitive, and so I wanted to see it to the end. So I think doing some things like that, taking the investment of the time, of people at least away from their regular jobs, be able to immerse in it and, have some fun and competition doing it.
That's really fun. That's really, really fun. So did you win? Was it worth missing the wedding?
It was definitely worth missing the wedding. We did not win. My team did not win, but we have some had some really really great ideas. Actually, our project or our was automatically analyzing software and fixing accessibility issues. So there's lots of tools out there that will tell you what's wrong with a site, but they don't fix it for you, or they do an ugly hack kind of layer on top. So we were actually have a solution where we're actually real time repairing the code uh,
Wow. So when
to
you
make
do
it
this with
accessible.
clients, you're literally going in and saying, let's go see what we can do just on the fly.
hmm Yeah, with hackathons, absolutely.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
How so there's so much out there with AI, the LLMs, the point solutions, like seems like every time you turn around it's the buzzword, right? We have an AI thing. And I think we've all like kind of downloaded that software and been like, oh, this I don't know, understand why they even call this AI, right? So what do you think the biggest myths are that are kind of circulating? I mean, AI is changing so rapidly. I mean, what it was a year ago to today is so different, and what it's going to be 2, 5, 10 years from now, who knows? So, what do you think people are most confused about, or what myths would you bust about AI?
Yeah, I think they think it's going to be a magic bullet. Let me install Microsoft Copilot, and then we're just magically going to have better performance across the company. And I think a lot of companies are seeing that they're not seeing the return on investment for some things. And so I think it comes back to that prioritization and the success metrics that we were talking about. I think with Gen AI, it's more important than ever to really pick where you're going to make the investment, especially as you're ramping up.
Right, right.
As you're leading teams and as you're working with customers through this massive change in the industry, massive change in possibility, what do you think that what are the leadership traits that matter? Are they different than what has mattered in the past, or where do we need to adapt in order to really embrace this new opportunity?
I think I think that definitely a growth mindset and continual learning and showing that through action and your own, what you're doing yourself to the team. So growth mindset, ability to learn something new, make sure you're learning something every new day, every week that's brand new. But I think that it's really the human side of the leaders that's mattering more, because we can have Gen AI do the mundane work, but it's the collaboration with the clients. It's the leading and inspiring a team. It is the finding a way through a situation where you have five different stakeholders that are all wanting different things out of the product and trying to find that, that path forward that is the win-win. Those are the things that are really, really hard for Gen AI to replace. And so it makes us have to be more well-rounded people and focus on the EQ and focus on the human side of things more.
Yeah, we talk about that, the human side of technology. And I don't, I love that you said that because I don't think enough people think about that. Is I hear a lot, oh, well, AI is taking jobs and AI is going to be cost out and soon there'll be, 12 employees in every company because AI will do everything else. But I don't think that's true, at least not now, maybe 5 years from now. So how do you infuse the human side of technology in that conversation when an executive comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to have AI and I want to take heads out and I want this all to be automated and I hear these agents can do everything and I don't need people."
Yeah. Well, I think we look at what are they trying to achieve? My with and really with the Gen AI, it's not, the objective isn't to stay where they are today, right? Like they're needing to make the leap ahead to against their competitors. And sure, but if they're thinking that they can be successful and that 2 years from now that they'll be at the top of their game, if they, replace what people are doing with the Gen AI and stay there, no, that's a level playing field, or that's where we are today. Things are going to be so far advanced in 1 year, 2 years. So I think it's helping them think bigger. I mean, absolutely understand, cost effectiveness and all of that, incredibly important, but looking at customer satisfaction and growth and all customer adoption, all those sorts of things instead, and kind of turning, at least exploring those aspects.
Um, we talk a lot about process. I love process. Andy loves process. Uh, Governance and process tend to be dirty words at companies. Uh,
Mhm.
how much do you guys talk to customers about as you shift into Gen AI? Understanding how the business works, because that's a lot of it, right? That human aspect is understanding what people do every day, because when you try to automate that, whether it's agentic or just through AI, you're really depending on that system in some instances, to your point, is to take care of the customers. And so customer CSAT, customer experience almost becomes even more important. So how do you bridge that conversation of understanding where they are versus where they need to be, not from a technology perspective, but from kind of a process and how your business, the reality of how your business runs? Because let's face it, executives are disconnected from the day to day. They just can't understand it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and you need a solution that's going to work for everybody, no matter where in the company they are. And you're absolutely right about that. Where we usually recommend to start is in terms of discovery, interviews, stakeholder interviews with people in all sorts of different jobs. Hear what are their pain points? What do they love? What do they hate? You have to make sure that we're addressing both of those, and then really looking for, kind of for the themes and takeaways, and, putting ourselves in their shoes through personas and their user journeys coming out of that. Um, yeah, you can do it more quickly, but if that work hasn't been done and it's not done, yeah, it's you're not going to end up where you want to go, or where they want to be. So definitely starting there from the user perspective, and then finding the path forward, then moving on to what are we going to develop, what are the solutions, how technically are we going to do it, but definitely not starting with the technology.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, when you think back to the projects that you've worked on, and as more people are thinking about, okay, we should be exploring a project, we should be calling Liz. Um, what what are the things that you've learned that other people can, take away in order to have a more productive project when they do walk into it?
Yeah. Um, Definitely exploring the why. Um, the why behind it. And we've talked a lot about that. I think the second part is exploring what's the smallest thing that we can do to learn something. Like, what's our hypothesis? What can we try to see if it moves the needle? Other in software, and it hasn't changed, right? It's very easy to head down a long path, and we're going to accomplish this whole thing, and it's going to be just out of this world, and it's going to be perfect, and it never is. And so really focusing on getting those learnings and trying things out, and then evolving based on that. So what can we do in a week, what can we do in a day that we can try and learn from?
I love that. I love
How
that.
much are those lessons that you've come across or the work you've done repeatable within the company within different aspects? So you talked about the insurance company, you talked about, hey, we automated the quoting system. Um, where, if you look at that and what you built, how much of it is reusable to other areas of the company versus when we look at software today, there is marketing software, there's sales software, there's support software, and it always seems distinct, bespoke to those departments. And what I've been seeing as we've built chatbots with customers is this overwhelming kind of reusability of some of these chatbots where it doesn't seem like the lift is so much larger. What have you been your experience with that?
Yeah. And I might answer your question in a bit different way, where I think where we are focusing on repeatability is in terms of the software development lifecycle. So
Gotcha.
we're a company that's our that's our focus, that's our expertise. And how we're doing is we're really taking a fresh perspective and applying Gen AI to that. And that comes in with Nova, our IP.
Mhm.
And what Nova is a digital coworker. So it's taking those mundane tasks that people don't want to do, don't like to do, and going way beyond Copilot and prompting and all of that to have a digital coworker or agentic AI that is there, that's a part of the team. And working with the team the way that the team already works today. Where we've started is in terms of test automation. I don't think I've ever had a single software project that had the best test automation in place, in time for that current release,
Yeah.
and it's always like a attempt to catch up thing. So we have Nolan, our digital coworker, that will join the team. He will automatically work from in the ways and Teams and Zoom and Azure DevOps and Jira and stuff with the way that the team's working, and we'll leverage the code and the user stories and generate automated test scripts and execute those. Well, Nolan works 24 hours a day, and so it really helps that the
Wow.
whole team be the team be powerful. But it's not a product, right? It's Nolan together with the team from Provoke and from our clients that are working together. It's enhancing the team with another coworker.
So it's interesting. Talk a little bit about it's just as you say this, testing is always such a drain, and you depend on humans to write test scripts. And the thing I'd want to understand is, does it do negative test scripting? Because you always when humans write it, they always say, "Oh, here's happy path. This is what we do." And you're like, "Yeah, but that's not reality. What happens when the inverse happens?" And explaining that to people is almost counterintuitive to them. They're like,
Right.
"Well, but I don't know what you mean." I was like, "So you've never had a situation where a customer went left when you thought they were going to go right?" Oh, and you kind of, so does Nolan understand that? And have you guys been able to say, well, this code doesn't work because it won't work in this instant?
Yes, yes, that's some of the cool things about Gen AI is that it can look at those different scenarios from different perspectives, and yeah, just be able to, for example, take what would previously taken 1,000 hours worth of work and really make that 100 now. Now, yes, absolutely. It can identify negative test cases. It can look from end to end, integrated testing, right? So like
Hmm.
testing on one page where you're clicking a button, that's easier. But if
Right.
you're looking at, well, what's the whole thread through the application that a certain person is taking, that's a little bit more complex. Is it 100%? No. No.
Right.
It's 80%, and that's why we have the team around it. And then that's why we have the review, and we do it in the right way to make sure that that we're achieving the right result.
No, that's super interesting. And I think that to the point earlier is that's going to advance so much more as we go through. And so where do you see Nolan going? Where do you see Gen AI going from your perspective of, either from a client lens or from a development lens? I mean, you've had this kind of career where you've kind of seen it and done it all. So now, what's the future look like there?
Yeah. It's just crazy exciting. It's just such a wonderful time to be working and to be experiencing it, because it really is of the scale that's different than you know anything that I've worked with in the last 20 years. It's an exciting time.
Do you think that, so the next thing I heard is quantum computing. So do you think Gen AI is like the next 10 years and then we're in quantum, or do you think this is kind of like, because SaaS has been around. I mean, if you think of the foundation of SaaS, that was 2002, I think Salesforce was founded, and they really were the, I guess, pioneer of SaaS, right? And so now we're in 2025, and they're obviously all agentic, and Agent Force is the way they're going. Um, do you see agentic as the future for every company? And if so, like, if you think about large companies versus, let's even go to mom and pops, how they're going to experience AI differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do see agentic AI as just a huge path forward. Of course, it remains to be seen, but the just the way it will change, like you said, a mom and pop's workday,
Right.
what they're worrying about. Let's say they're have an eBay store, and shipping things, and responding to orders and questions and all of that. Just the possibility of how much of that could be done for them with the right amount of review. um yeah, it might actually make that 4-hour work week possible for some folks.
um, so what do you think as I liked how you talked about this consistent environment of learning. So what would you say to people if they are just touching AI for the first time, or heard about it and they're nervous or scared? Where would I start? Where would I start on my AI journey if I kind of knew little to nothing except the buzz?
Yeah. I think two places. I think first, understanding a little bit, and understanding that it's pattern prediction. It's not really thinking. And I think understanding a little bit behind the scenes helps take some of the fear away, of what it's doing. And then I think secondly, um go use ChatGPT, plan a family vacation. Pick something in your everyday life and try it out. My husband and I were in New Zealand for most of November, and ChatGPT planned a road trip for us, or around the whole North Island. Add in what your family members love to do, and just see what it can do.
That's
I love
amazing.
that. I love that. That's how we're planning our upcoming move. Like literally. Like, tell me about neighborhoods, tell me about towns, and then give me a 6-day trip to go check it all out. So
Right,
fun. Yeah.
right.
But
Yes,
blows your mind a little bit.
it does. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so talk a little bit about prompt engineering, because I think that's a really important part of it, and I don't know that people really understand how important prompting is. And you were saying, being an English major, you're a great prompt engineer. So talk about, prompts, what that really means, and what makes a great engineer or a great prompt.
Yeah, I think curiosity, number one. And but I think there's a few things, and there's fantastic free prompt engineering courses. I think first, setting the context of you know who is ChatGPT supposed to be is I'll give you an example that's a real live example. I asked ChatGPT, I said, can you be a certified dog behaviorist? And I have a bird dog who's a Brittany, blah blah blah, and he is slamming against the window when he sees squirrels outside because he realizes that chases them away. Well, over the past 5 years, I have spent thousands of dollars in dog training and like a real dog behaviorist. The answers that ChatGPT gave me were crazy. So I think it's about setting the context, framing up the problem with enough detail, and then really clearly saying what you want out of it. Okay, I want a training plan that's step by step. I want 10-minute lessons as broken up, et cetera, of how I can implement it. And so I think it's using those three aspects to make sure that you're getting what you want out of it, and then trying something else. Okay, you're such and such author. What do you think about this? And Yeah, just try some things.
Love it. When we talk to clients, we really talk to them about how do we simplify, streamline, and scale their business. I'm wondering, what's the piece of advice that you would give to leaders that are trying to simplify or streamline in order to scale, which is we're all looking for growth.
Absolutely. I think it's about looking where their differentiation is, and really the only place there should be a lot of complexity is what's unique to them and what is their secret sauce. For the most part, other than that, standardize on SaaS platforms. Not everything should be custom app dev. People should be coming to y'all for the best ways to do CRM, for the best ways to do all of that, and just really be willing to step back and see, to realize that the way that they've done things isn't necessarily the best way, and that others with a fresh perspective and that are bringing in that industry perspective can help them have something that's 90% of that, or even 80% of what they need. And for the non-differentiation areas, that's typically enough.
I love that. Good.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. It's so interesting to hear your journey and everything you've done and the advice you've given. Anything that you would say as a final closing remark that you would say, if if I had a magic wand, do this as an
Mhm.
executive or a leader trying to move into Gen AI?
I think the first thing is just looking at what's possible, spending a little bit of time learning it and looking at it, and doing that hands on, and talk with others about it, right? Everybody spends a few minutes doing it, then you build the real human connections, as well as learning the technology and kind of exploring what you can do together.
That's great advice. Well,
Perfect.
thank you so much. We will be sure to bring you back to kind of figure out what's next on the journey. And as this AI uh, entire work stream evolves, we want to learn more about what Provoke and you're doing, and how our listeners can learn more about it.
Awesome, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks. Bye. What a great conversation.
Rich. She was so great to bring on. I mean, really, really interesting. I loved hearing about her experiences.
Well, and it's funny when you've worked with somebody for so long, and of course we haven't worked together for many years, and you see the evolution of their career and kind of where they've started and where they've been. And we kind of all have those arcs in our career, but it's funny because many people we've worked with back during those global deployment and those SaaS days have now moved to the AI world. And
Right.
it seems like it's the future of at least technology for now. So,
Right.
so
Well,
kind
what
of
I love too is, I mean, thinking about, yeah, it's an arc. I mean, Liz is, there's no arc. Like, it's just,
trajectory.
she's just going. So I loved hearing what she's working on now. And in terms of takeaways, I was really fascinated by a lot of what she had said. But I think, I love the idea of a hackathon. How
Yeah,
cool is that to
yeah.
actually see it in kind of real life. That would be so much fun from a client perspective.
Well, and
As
I
one of her clients, I'd
gives
love to
like
do
this
that.
practical application really quickly. I think the challenge with traditional software is you get a demo and then you
Right.
sit in a room and you do requirements. And I always had this issue with requirements is because when people are sitting in a room and talking about what they do, it's almost removed from it. And when you're hands on, you're like, oh, that happened and that happened. And you don't realize that until you start touching the software.
It's true. It's true. Well, and what better way to see the art of what's possible and
Right.
really get people to think outside of this is how we do it today, so I want to replicate that, but now, oh, let's take it a next step. And that's a real differentiator for companies to think about. So I really loved that idea. The other thing that was a key takeaway is for everything, focus on the why and then figure out what's the smallest piece that you can test. I thought that was really
Yeah.
fabulous advice that, maybe you've heard it before, but it should be something that you're thinking, whatever the project is, what's the why and how do we test a hypothesis?
Like it should be like the mantra. Like
Right,
is this it's almost like always coming back to it. Does that satisfy your why? Does that
right,
satisfy your why?
right, right.
Because it's true. I mean, the business problem you're solving, and I think this is true of all of us, is sometimes we identify a problem, but until we really talk it out and see it and experience it, we sometimes don't fully absorb it or kind of attach to it. So I do like that kind of repeating of the why. Why are we doing this? Why is this important? How does it help my business? And what is it kind of going to look like at the end?
And then
Uh,
break it
yeah,
down, test it. Let's make sure we're on the right track. So
yeah,
I loved that. Yeah.
yeah,
And then continuous learning. I mean, we talked about the prompts, but I think that cannot be underscored enough. Is just we all need to be continually learning and
yeah,
continually challenging ourselves, particularly as all of this new, we're in such an exciting period. And
right.
it's easy to say, okay, let's just stop with chat GPT. But even there's beyond that, there's so much more that can be used out of it. So really challenging ourselves to continually learn new things.
Well, and we didn't dive into it, and she touched on it a little bit. There's ChatGPT, there's these big LLMs, but there's also AI within software. So Salesforce, Marketo, like all these softwares have AI components. And then you sometimes have these, what I call third-party apps, these apps that are being developed that kind of sit on top of those, or they're specialized, right? They're very niche softwares. And so I think it is important because every software is having an AI component is really understand and learn what these different softwares do because it's going to come back to that why. So why
Yeah.
am I going to use Agentforce and Salesforce versus build a custom bot in ChatGPT or Gemini or how do I use Perplexity versus this independent software that is so focused in support services and they're just dialed into that. Um, because there also becomes a cost associated with these softwares that customers can't underestimate either.
Right.
Um, and the story around ROI is always going to be an important one that they have to think about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it was a
Great.
great conversation. I really enjoyed Liz. She's so smart and it was it's so great to hear people's perspective of what they're doing. I mean, both you and I have like these AI projects going on. So, having this outside in influence so that, oh yeah, I better better remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's important.
Yeah.
Great.
Excellent.
Well, I'm looking forward to our next conversation. It will be with Kelly Morgan around brand and design thinking. So that will be a really interesting conversation for us to kind of delve into and enjoy what's going on.
Good. Good.
Good.
Good.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, until next time, listeners, we will talk to you soon.
One,